2 weeks ago, we highlighted how Florida Senator Ashley Moody, when she was State Attorney General, approved the diversion of $10 million of taxpayer money from a Medicaid settlement to the Hope Florida Foundation. And she did so without placing any of the safeguards and guarantees that her office would typically require to make sure the money was properly spent. This was money that was supposed to be used to expand health care for poor children in Florida, but instead it ended up in the bank accounts of a pair of political action committees, one of which was controlled by the governor, Ron DeSantis, and his then chief of staff, James Uthmeyer. Moody refuses to answer questions about her actions, but in a statement released by her campaign after our report, Moody attempted to distance herself from the affair, suggesting the blame rests with the governor and his administration. The statement says, and quote, "This was an agency for healthcare administration agreement that ACA chose to negotiate and settle through ACA lawyers and outside counsel almost 2 years ago." There is still a lot to this story that I want to get to. Joining us now is retired Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman, who is hoping to be the Democratic nominee against Moody this November. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you very much for coming in.
Good to be back with you, Jim.
All right, so I know the questions I want to get answered from Ashley Moody. What are the questions you'd like to see Ashley Moody address?
Well, I think that the grand jury investigation is likely very damning, and I think that's why it's being concealed. I think what we want to see is Ashley Moody be out on the record saying that this should be released. Ultimately, the people of Florida deserve to know what's going on. She needs to come clean about her role in taking away $10 million away from children and Medicaid.
Now, she did, as part of her statement, say that she would have no problem if the report was released. Yeah. Is that not good enough?
It is not. It is one of her campaign team saying this. She needs to go out on the record and say that she would fight to have this released. The reason is, if you think about this case, this is somebody that signed off on $10 million coming out of children's health care to go to a political campaign. That couldn't be a more dastardly, more corrupt act. The people of Florida deserve to know the details, deserve to know why she signed off on this before we get to Election Day. And I think the fact is, to me, it's clear that this is being concealed. They've not answered any of my calls for transparency. I know they also haven't answered any of your questions along the way. There is a lot more to this case, especially if you think about it in the context of somebody that's taken $1 million from the big insurance companies while the rest of us are experiencing the highest insurance rates in the country. That she's happy to not hold them to account, taking money from drug companies, from every special interest. It's the context, not just this particular scandal, that leads me to believe that this is just part of a big pattern of corruption.
Now, to be fair, I do want to make it clear that it is not clear whether or not Ashley Moody knew of the plan to send this money to Hope Florida and then divert it into the political campaigns. Yeah. That, to me, is the overriding question here, is what did she know? When she signed off on this deal for the money to go to the Hope Florida Foundation, was she also aware that the money was ultimately intended to go to political campaigns to run ads against the marijuana amendment that was on the ballot?
The people of Florida deserve to know. The people of Florida deserve to know why she signed off on this deal without safeguards, why she was happy to be a handmaiden to some sort of corrupt political scheme. This was anomalous. Just signing off on these funds being diverted from healthcare alone is a huge anomaly. Why did she do that? To me, it's clear that she was serving a political interest.
Why do you think this story has resonated? It's one of those stories where I put it out there a couple weeks ago, and I'm even surprised that by how many people have picked it up and talking about it.
Yeah, it is not the least bit of a surprise to me. The reason to me is I've had 250 events across the state of Florida talking to Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. They're working harder than ever and falling further behind. They understand that there's something rotten in the system. It's rigged for the billionaires, for the corporations, by corrupt politicians that are happy to deliver for power. And they see this reflected in Ashley Moody. They see it reflected in her stock trading, $2 million. They see it reflected in her taking money from big insurance companies, from drug companies, from all special interests. And in this particular case, could you imagine a worse scenario? If you're looking for a loyalist, if you're a villain looking to recruit a henchman, and you're trying to figure out what is the bar to make sure that you have the ultimate loyalty test, somebody that's willing to take $10 million away from children to deliver for politics in a political campaign couldn't have proven themselves to be more loyal and more of a rubber stamp. That's why this resonates with the people of Florida.
I think one of the things that is striking to me is she's actually been canceling interviews that have come up since, that were preordained, pre-scheduled, because she doesn't want to answer questions about this. I'm just confused as to why she thinks that she can run a campaign basically behind closed doors and not get out there. She's limiting press access to her events. What you talk about this reflecting a larger issue. The issue of corruption is one that I think, in the age of Donald Trump and what we've seen from the Trump administration in terms of his self-dealing and those sorts of things, I think the issue of corruption is going to be one of the central issues in this year's cycle across the country.
I think that's absolutely true. I think it's because costs are crushing folks, and they understand that it's not because they're not putting the work in. It's not because of them not delivering for their families. It's because there's something rotten in the system. And I think what resonates with people about this campaign, what's powering this campaign, what's having us engage with packed rooms, with donors that are pouring in, very much a grassroots-driven campaign, is my record on this is clear. I don't think there is anybody else in this country that's running for office that has this record of fighting corruption regardless of the consequences, doing the right thing regardless of the consequences, fighting the fights that need to be fought, and delivering results. So I think that's an important factor for this candidacy and what's going to allow us to score a win. What Ashley Moody is living in is she's living in the past. She's living in a past in which this was a purely partisan race, the way it plays out, that the Republicans that have a majority show up in force. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing Democrats consolidate. We're seeing independents cross over. And we're seeing disaffected Republicans cross over to this campaign in force. That's what's going to deliver us a win. And her taking shelter is not going to get her very far.
I want to broaden it out to talk about the campaign overall that you're running. Obviously, we saw that in the Judiciary Committee, she voted to advance the nomination of Todd Blanche. It seems like he's on a path to now getting approved as Attorney General. I don't think I need to ask you, but you would not be voting for Todd Blanche if you were in the Senate at this point. Tell me what the issue that you have, why you think that's a problem, have him in the role of Attorney General.
So one of the important roles of the Senate is confirming appointments for cabinet officials. So at every turn, the Senate has a role to make sure that these leaders are qualified, competent. Todd Blanche's single qualification, his single competency is loyalty, absolute loyalty to partisan politics, to corruption, to advancing the cause of corruption, instead of fighting for the people. The Attorney General, the highest official in the land, should be fighting to make our streets safer, fighting to bat down corruption. And Ashley Moody is happy to sign on to that agenda, having a politician, not a professional, not somebody that's competent, not somebody that could do that job in that role. This is her pattern all the way through. She's voted for a war 10 times, giving this administration a free pass on this war. She's voted for all these different things that are making life harder for the people of Florida because she's a rubber stamp. She passed that test with the Hope Florida scandal, signing off on $10 million out of children's health care, that she will be an automatic rubber stamp for all these things that are making life harder and costing Floridians.
You mentioned the war. I want to ask you about that. Is the United States losing the war with Iran?
I don't see an easy way out of this war in which we haven't complicated and frankly harmed our U.S. national security. The reason is that we've lost soldiers. This war has cost $100 billion. The Iranians are leaving this war seemingly stronger because they control entry into this one critical waterway that they're going to be able to extract extortion fees from anybody that translates. It's driving up costs, and there's no easy way out. This is another issue with Ashley Moody. She could be calling for competent diplomacy. She could be calling for a path that gets us out of this war, alleviates the cost for folks. Instead, 10 times she's voted to give this administration a free pass. That is, to me, a disqualifier. We've lost troops. Hundreds have been injured. Billions, 100 billion spent, and the costs have been going up for the people of Florida. That is a disqualifier. She is incompetent and not capable of doing that job.
Do you want to debate Ashley Moody? Are you planning on debating her?
I would love the opportunity to make my case to the people of Florida across the political spectrum as to which candidate will fight corruption and lower costs.
Is that a yes to
yes.
You're debating her? I raise that also because you did not debate in your primary.
Yes.
And I am loath to do this because I've covered politics for more than 30 years in in Florida, and I know that when you start talking about the actions of the spouses of candidates, it gets tricky because they are so emotionally invested that they often say things. Your wife issued something on social media in which she described Angie Nixon in very unflattering terms and even made some comments about her wardrobe, her clothing. I know that your wife apologized for it, but this is an issue that you're going to face, the failure to debate Angie Nixon and then these comments. Are you concerned about being able to bring the more progressive elements, the black community, into your campaign if you should win the primary?
Well, I just want to be clear that my wife recognized that what she said was wrong. She made a mistake. She took down the post, apologized publicly, and also communicated to Rep. Nixon. I think that is what we try to do. This family is about accountability. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard. That means taking account of your mistakes and moving forward. And for us, I'm worried about getting everybody together. This is a daunting challenge. Winning this Senate seat in the environment of Florida, seemingly moving towards a more conservative, Republican environment, we need everybody behind us. We need Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So absolutely very much focused on this.
You see what the playbook is going to be for Republicans across the country. It is to basically brand all Democrats as members of the DSA, as socialists, as communists. You know, that is going to be the overriding thing. Given the results in Michigan, given what we've seen in New York and other congressional races, what do you make of the rise of the DSA movement within the Democratic Party?
I think, to me, what's crystal clear is that we need all Democrats on board for this campaign. That Democrats, when we get through this primary, come together and recognize this is the campaign that is going to fight the fights that are necessary, and cooperate and deliver results and a cost-cutting agenda and fighting corruption.
Are you a socialist?
I'm not a socialist. My family fled. You know, this is a good opportunity to just maybe say the fact that I'm a 21-year combat veteran, Purple Heart recipient, airborne ranger, served under authoritarian regimes in Russia, have fought against this. And that's because this is a personal issue to me. My family came to the U.S. in 1979, fleeing communism. We arrived as refugees. We were dispossessed and abused by a communist regime. We are absolutely focused on, and I think this is where we find common ground with Venezuelans that fled socialism and Cubans that fled communism, that there is common ground, and none of this is going to stick. But I think it's important to recognize that we need to bring everybody together for what really matters. What really matters is delivering real representation, a fighter, and political power back to Floridians.
Alex Vindman, thank you very much for coming in.